You know when you find that perfect road and the pavement is just buttery smooth? That feels super great, super fast, and the reason is because that road has very low rolling resistance. Well, with tires, we can do the same thing. We can actually affect the rolling resistance of how your actual bike performs and your speed just by choosing a specific tire. Different tires have different rolling resistance, and this video is about my suggestion on which tires you should choose for your next upcoming race. It's Free Speed Friday, let's do it. Okay, so I've got to grab a couple of tires, and then I have a couple more just on wheels behind me here. But what I figured I'd do is discuss with you guys a little bit about CRR, or coefficient of rolling resistance, and why I think we should consider it when purchasing a tire, especially when you're kind of purchasing a tire for a big race or a triathlon. Maybe you're thinking about which tire you want to use for your Ironman race. Coefficient of rolling resistance is basically like how smooth your tire rolls over a surface, and that's pretty oversimplified. But your tire will dimple and undimple basically as you're rolling over rough surface, smooth surface, whatever, basically, depending on how much you weigh, depending on tire pressure, depending on a lot of different elements. The CRR of a tire will be different, so that coefficient of rolling resistance. However, different tires, if set at the same tire pressure and rolled over with the same amount of weight, you can compare tires, or at least try to compare tires, apple to apples, on like what their CRR properties are. And there's huge differences, right? So, for example, on the tire behind me, on my training wheel, I put a pair of Continental gator skins. I actually really love this tire. It has puncture resistance all the way around the tire, completely wrapped. And I think they use some sort of like Kevlar type material when they're doing the puncture resistance. And you very rarely will have flats with it, or at least that's the idea. You'll roll over stuff in the wintertime or whatever it is, the roads are pretty rough. And hopefully you'll pick up less objects on the road, less glass slashes through your tire, whatever it is. But the gator skins I think are fantastic. They're a fantastic option for trainer tires. However, if you go from a tire like that to something like this, which is the Grand Prix 4000S, in an Ironman race, you can drop and again, it's all gonna be based on like your weight and things like that, but you're looking at like 5 minutes of performance advantage in an Ironman distance race. And I'm basing those on kind of just like whatever the defaults are for measurements of weight and tire pressure and things like that. But 5 minutes, you can really, depending on how efficient you are, 5 minutes, you can actually change a tire in 5 minutes and still come out ahead when you're actually like changing just based on like tire choice. In this particular tire, the Grand Prix 4000S2, I actually think it's a very, very good option for people to choose. It doesn't perform the absolute best as far as that CRR number goes, but it does extremely well. I would say it's probably kind of in that top 15 or so of the tires that I've seen tested. And if you guys want to read more into this, the blog that I would recommend is a guy that put together a blog called bikeblather.blogspot.com. Just a guy, I think he's kind of solo independent, and he loves to test tires for rolling resistance. And he actually keeps a spreadsheet, or he has for the past couple years. I think he's still doing it. And I think he has like, I don't know, I'd guess like 40, 50 tires or something like that he's tested. So lots of different things would go into effect, like the width of the tires, right? Like if we're thinking about the width of the tires and how easy it is for that tire to deform and reform, the width of the tire is gonna make a difference for sure. And I think this is a 23 But a lot of people are riding wider tires, and this is one of the big reasons is they're riding wider tires because the rolling resistance typically is less as you go wider. Tire pressure, I mentioned earlier, you know, the more tire pressure you have, again, the less rolling resistance you would have. Again, so you ride your tire pressure really low, like 50, 60, it's gonna be really soft and cushy. However, the tire's gonna dimple more and basically have a little bit more of a surface area to have to reform. So you have these trade-offs. There is this other tire that I think is a decent recommendation here as well, and that is the Specialized S-Works Turbo. I think it tested a little bit higher than the Grand Prix, but then, you know, as you get to these nicer tires that have a little higher performing rolling resistance, you know, the things that I worry about are puncture resistance in a race. And this one, you know, they do have that layer of, I think they put like the same kind of thing that they have with the Gator skins. They put a layer of puncture protection, and they do less of a layer of puncture protection. They just do it like straight down the actual length of the tire. So this is definitely one that I recommend to a lot of people. And you'll see a lot of people racing with this in like an Ironman race. I think it's a really good option. So again, it's kind of that balance between puncture resistance and decent rolling resistance. And that's the Continental 4000 S2. You'll see that on probably at least one of the tires that I'll grab, or wheels that I'll grab. The S-Works, you know, is gonna test significantly better. It is a very fast tire. This is a 24 millimeter size tire, and so again, just a touch wider than this 23. They also make this in a 26, so kind of some odd sizing that way, but it tests extremely well. And then the absolute fastest testing tire that I've seen is this one, which is called the Vittoria Corsa Speed. And this is the one kind of with the gray border on the edge. And it has, I think, graphene in it. You might see that as far as kind of like the advertisement piece on this particular tire. And it tests extremely well. It tests extremely fast. It's number one. It's actually number one by a significant margin. I have some theories as to why. I have no idea for sure, but I think that they're using like a latex liner on the inside here so that you can ride this tubeless or ride it with like a latex tube if you're interested in more material on that. I did do a video a couple weeks ago on like latex tubes and why I think people should use them in their races. So I was super excited about this particular tire last year. And as soon as I saw like the test results, I immediately grabbed a pair and started doing some training rides on them. And the problem that I ran into on this particular tire is that every single time that I rode them, I got a flat. So, I'm still super tempted to try these in a race, right? Because I know they're fast. I know they're faster tires than anything else that's out there on the market. But the other problem that I had with this tire was that they were extremely hard to get on and off the tire themselves. It's just a very, very tight tire. And it really took me, you know, it took me way more than 5 minutes to take this particular tire off, change the flat, and get back going on the road. In fact, one time I was out on this stretch of road that's nice and flat. I do a lot of my tests out there, Vancouver Lake. I think I've done a different video out there. I was out there, I had this tire on. I think I had a flat on the rear tire. I had like one car come by, grab their drink of whatever, soda or whatever, and just chuck it at me. I'm changing the tire and I'm furious. This guy's like throwing a drink at me. And then like, lo and behold, I have another flat with this tire and a different person came by, completely different, and threw a different drink at me. So my experience with this tire has not been good at all. And that's not to say that I don't want to give it another try. I mean, I'm super eager to give something like this a try because I do know it's fast. So, okay, so I went through all this, you know, different testing last year as I was trying to decide what I was gonna race on for Ironman Arizona, which I did in November. And what I decided on was a tire called the Continental TT. It's probably, let me see if I can grab this for you here. It's just on my disc wheel still because I just leave it on there. So the Grand Prix TT, I think is a kind of a real nice balance. There's not a lot of puncture resistance, but I've just had so much good luck with Continental tires that I was super eager to give this one another try, or give the brand another try. And so far, I mean, I rode on it, I rode on a number of times. I've raced it quite a bit. And I typically just use it for racing, and then gator skins for the training tires. But man, that Continental TT tire, it tests really well. It tests a little bit ahead of the Specialized S-Works Turbo, which I haven't really spent a lot of time trying these yet, but I'm definitely gonna try them. But it tests really well. It's a little bit better than that. I think it's probably like 3rd or 4th on the list. So testing, I would say pretty well. Continental makes another tire that I think does really well too, or that at least they used to. I think it was like the Force and the Attack. There's another tire that they have that I feel like it was hard to get a hold of those tires. So I went with the Grand Prix TT. I think it's a fast tire. It does test well. I had no problems as far as flats and things like that so far, knock on wood at least. But that would be another one that you guys might consider for a racing tire. Again, pricing on all of this stuff, I actually should have done my homework. I should have looked it up. But I think you're looking at probably $50 or so for each of these tires. I don't think any of them are super, pricey as far as that goes. The one that I briefly mentioned, that Grand Prix, like the Grand Prix Attack and the Grand Prix Force, I remember those were extremely expensive, like twice the price that they probably should be. However, I think that all of these options that I mentioned here are kind of in that $50 range. You can get tires for less than that. You can get tires for 20, 25 bucks, something like that. So I don't usually recommend that. I think it's probably worth picking up, something like the gator skins, which are probably 50 bucks. Again, you can always find stuff on sale. I'll try to find some sale items and leave them in the description below. But you can always find something like that. And then the Grand Prix, again, I think they're similar price, 40, 50 bucks. Whenever they're on sale, I'll usually grab a couple of those. I think these are great options. I think you can train on them and race on them. If you're looking for something that's specifically racing oriented, I'm gonna recommend the Grand Prix TTs, the Continentals. If you guys are like time trial specific and you're willing to take a risk on those flats, the Vittoria is definitely something to try. And maybe you're gonna have better luck than I will. So that is what I have to say on tire rolling resistance. It's a fun topic to dig into. I think it's pretty interesting. I hope that you guys find it interesting. And if you do, hit the like button below. It definitely helps out the channel. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I do appreciate it, all of you guys that have hit subscribe. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.